Appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me. A lot of crazy stuff going on back in the States right now.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I've seen. Were you in DC when everything was happening over there?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty
Yeah,
crazy. We went out there. We went out there. We went. We saw the president speak. Um, and yeah, man, I don't think anybody could have anticipated that happening.
mm,
That was the like. Look, I was more concerned with some kind of crazy attack or something, negative happening. Somebody setting up bombs or something to
yeah,
just derail everything that's going on, or people just wanted to be
yeah,
malicious. I was more concerned with
yes,
that happening than like storming the Capitol. It's like, come on, bro, ain't nobody getting in there. Remember what happened
yeah,
last summer when
yeah,
BLM tried to raid the thing and then the guy got shot and all this stuff? I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, ain't nobody's going in the Capitol.
yeah.
And after seeing videos of these officers just opening the gates, letting them walk in, and I see videos of people handing them pipes and, people dressed as Antifa, changing their clothes into MAGA gear in the bushes. And I'm like, there's a lot of evidence that this was not the conservatives that did this. But, the
Mm,
media doesn't care. The people that voted for Biden don't care. All they care about is Orange Man Bad is gone.
mm.
And, even though all this evidence is out here, nobody wants to hear it. The same way, got video evidence. You've got thousands of sworn testimonies. They don't want to hear it. They still don't care. You know,
Why do you think that? Why do you think that is? They're just letting
why
all
do I
that
think they don't
go.
care?
Yeah.
Because me personally, and this is rabbit hole stuff. I can't fully confirm this. What I can confirm for sure is that Joe Biden is 3,000,000% compromised by the
Mm.
CCP. That is a fact. Okay, his son,
CCP.
A Chinese Communist Party.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a Chinese Communist Party, completely compromised. You receive billions of dollars from these guys. Your son has received billions of dollars from these people. You're funneling the money back into the United States. Literally, a lot of this stuff was all on Hunter Biden's laptop. To make things even crazier, is there was a website. I don't recommend anybody go on there because there's some pretty disgusting things on
Yeah.
that laptop that, not for the faint of heart, I would say.
Yeah.
But .net or .gov, I believe it is, a Chinese news agency. They leaked everything that was on that laptop.
Wow.
Well, a lot of all the footage, I should say, that was on that
Yeah.
laptop, and it's not the best kind of stuff you want to see.
Yeah.
But even with all that being said, with Joe Biden getting live on television in front of the Council of Foreign Relations and talking about strong arming the Ukraine and if they don't fire the prosecutor investigating my son, you're not getting the money. I'm like, look, when I started to see this, I'm like, listen, the fraud has gotten to a point where it seems that the Democrats, and I won't even call them the Democrats, I would call them the Marxists at this point because, you
Mm.
know, what the Democrat Party used to be, and from my perspective, the Democrat Party has never had the interests of African Americans. Let me just say that off the bat.
Yeah.
But growing up, the Democrats always had like this nice facade, at least, of being like the party of the people and the truth and justice and all that. And I would go as far as to say after Barack Obama. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because while Barack Obama was there, like, especially, and we're talking first term Barack Obama, everybody got behind Barack Obama, dude.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
thought he was the guy. He's the dude. I thought he was the guy. I voted for him the first time,
Yeah.
and then the second time around, he ran in 2020. Still kind of the guy. People still liked him. I didn't vote for him the second time. At that point, I came out of the military. I'm like, this guy is not the person for me. And
2016, you mean?
the 2016 race, yeah. So
2016. Okay.
2008, I voted for him. 2016, that's the secondary thing, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like after he left office, the ideas of the Democrat Party started to shift further and further to the left to the point that it went off a cliff and underground and came right back out and over to the left again. Like it went really,
Yeah.
really left. And I believe that it's like when you're in that crowd, when you're in that group, when you're with those people, the facts don't necessarily matter. It doesn't really matter at that point because at the end of the day, if you're on our team, we're going to back you whether you like it or not. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got Chinese spies that are sleeping with other Democrat congressmen in California. Dianne Feinstein employed a Chinese spy for over 20 years. A lot of these people are married to suspected spies. It's funny because it's like they based an entire impeachment on the president on
Mm.
the dossier, the Steele dossier that turned out to be fake. They knew it was fake. They didn't admit that it was fake until after the investigation, after millions and millions of dollars were spent, but you still did it
Yeah.
anyway to try and demonize and put a stain on his record and his name. and nothing came of it because none of it was true. They were even willing to spend time to impeach the president on his way out. Like, you can't impeach a president who's not in the chair. So when I see that, I'm like, you're doing this purely for the virtue signal, because if he does run in 2024, you're going to be like, you want a criminal who to run? He was impeached because he did this. Like, we all voted on it. See, look, it's a cool kids club, and we ain't in it. The truth be told is Donald Trump ain't no Republican. You know what I mean? It's like, he's not a Republican. And it's funny because, like, about halfway through his term, so I kind of came to terms with that, because I remember back in the day, Donald Trump, he would donate to Democrats, kind of supported the Democrats and stuff like that, but he ain't a Democrat. He was always, from what I've seen, he's always been the guy that everybody wanted to be like. I didn't want to be like him. I didn't like Trump as a kid, but everybody wanted to be like him. He was, giving to charities, doing all kinds of stuff. He was one of the first people to desegregate his golf courses, The media doesn't talk about a lot of that stuff.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
NAACP awards, all these things. They say today they see him do anything for the African American community, and it's because he's a racist and he wants to get our support. No, it's like
he's pandering.
Right. It's like I said the same thing in a NTD interview that I did when I was in D.C., and they said that, look, in 2016, Donald Trump won with 6% of the African American vote. 2020, he got about 21% of the African American male vote, which is still pretty freaking significant compared to, like, not having it before. So I'm like, if you didn't even have those numbers the first time, why is he going to need them now? Especially against someone like Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton was a far more credible threat than Joe Biden was. Hillary Clinton had the time, Hillary Clinton had the influence, and Hillary wasn't losing her mind. Yeah. She was still sharp. You know what I mean? She's definitely Biden hid the entire time. So when I see that kind of stuff, I'm like, this is 100% a setup and a half. And it hurts. It really hurts to see the direction that our country's going in, because it's like we're at a point where it's like facts don't matter. We're in a post-truth world. No matter how much truth you put out, no matter how much evidence is out there, because it contradicts someone's narrative or someone's belief system, they're going to go against it 100%, whether it's true or not. And it's been unfortunate, but I believe that's the reason why they are where they are, man. They're all a part of the club, and I believe a lot of these congressmen, these senators, the people in the Supreme Court, a lot of these guys who stab people in the back when they didn't have to, they got some kind of deal at the table. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. Kelly Loeffler, everybody thought that, maybe she was going to pull through, or she was going to, stand up for the president, even though she supposedly lost her race, which I believe 3 million % was. You know what I mean? Stacey Abrams just so happens to be related to one of the judges in Georgia. Okay, no conspiracy there. None at all. Machines start going down, pipes breaking, all these excuses. Ballots being pulled from under tables, on video, thousands of people swearing with the penalty of perjury before the court in sworn testimonies, yet it's all garbage to these people, because these people want their seat at the table. And if the truth comes out as to what they do, they got a lot to lose. So they're going to work overtime trying to portray that narrative, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's you always hear people complaining about police officers backing each other regardless of whatever was done if it was illegal. But it's like politicians do the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's a terrible thing, because it's like what our party needs now more than ever. And it's sad, because former politicians, absolute scumbags, I'm not going to call them out by name, but I've had conversations with former politicians who would say, man, I know you want to get in Congress, but, there's not much you're going to get done, because you have to vote with the Democrats. If the Democrats you have to vote with the Republicans. If the Democrats put out a bill, and even if it's a good bill, you can't support that bill. You got to toe the party line. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, that's exactly why our country goes nowhere, because you guys are so worried about the clique that the country suffers. And when the country suffers, you don't care. But then you'll come back home and then you'll campaign about, how I'm going to fight for you. When in reality, you just want to fight for your team. You want to fight for your clique, for the guys that you swore an allegiance to the lobbyists who gave you a couple $1,000s, to the politician that put you on that committee. And we all got to suffer for it at the end of the day. Me personally, and it's one of the reasons why I believe that many of these politicians, and I do that in quotes because they're not real people. The job of a politician is to represent the people. These people don't represent the people. The reason why I feel that I'm a threat, not even why I am a threat. It's quite obvious throughout this race from what I've seen. I've got political hitmen trying to destroy my character. I've got lots of lawsuits coming out. That lady's going to get sued very bad. She doesn't even realize it yet. She's going to get sued very bad. Serious defamation cases, people that have been sent Political operatives have been set to try and destabilize what I'm doing, because when these politicians have been running their campaigns and running their party in a way for such a long time, they get complacent and they get really cool. And then here comes a guy who's nothing like you. He doesn't act like you. He doesn't roll like you. He doesn't subscribe to any of the beliefs that you do. I'm going to do the complete opposite, and I'm actually going to do what's right for the people. That's a threat to their system. It's like, hey, we've been making a lot of money doing what we're doing right now, just being scumbags and laying back. And here comes this random guy who wants to kind of try and mess this up. We got to try and destroy him. Even people from within the Republican Party. In fact, I get no flack from the Democrat Party. That's going to shock a lot of people. Even though Bill Pascrell, who I'm going up against and I will go up against in 2022, last raise, he raised like 1.4 million or something in that ballpark. Raised a lot of money. He never threw a single punch at me. In fact, he avoided me like the plague, which in my opinion was a pretty smart strategy. Touche. So I have to be a little bit more crafty with getting this guy out into the light. So that's okay. But a lot of the attacks, in fact, all the attacks that I got were from the state GOP, from the GOP, from the county chairs, from these little weaklings inside of these little Republican groups, I've never been punched in the face, no street smarts. I have no idea how the world works, but I want to hang with the cool kids who call themselves Republicans, and we roll together, we smoke cigars, and I will never, ever go out and knock a door and grow the party. If I won't even knock a door, I'll never come into Patterson, I'll never go into Irvington, Newark, any of these inner cities and try and talk about being a Republican. I'll get shot. These people are cowards, you see, and the reason why our party's failing is because they're cowards. This is a cool kids club to them, and to me, I take it extremely personally because the Democrats are going to Democrat, all right? They've been doing it for the past 40, 50, almost 60 years, right? The Republicans, on the other hand, they're doing nothing, and they're allowing them to Democrat. And if you allow them to continue to do that, you make excuses like, oh, we got to win these races that we can actually win, which are out here on the outskirts and in the suburbs in these little tiny podunk cities that have like a population of like maybe 10,000. But you want to avoid the large cities where there's hundreds of thousands of people where if you turn the tide, you lock it. But they don't want to do that. They want to focus on the small fries. And then here comes a guy who, in fact, even before me, Dr. Hector Castillo, my mentor, who's guided me through this race, Peruvian guy, very soft-spoken, very awesome until he starts speaking in Spanish. This guy is a G when he starts talking. When he starts like talking politics in Spanish, bro, he'll close you, man. Like he really knows what he's talking about. But he did fantastic. 2016, he got 65,000 votes, which is the most any Republican has ever gotten in the 9th district ever. And then I run in 2020. And then I shift the goalpost by 30,000 more votes. Now, to be fair, not even to be fair, on a couple of days before, not even a couple of days, a couple of hours, I should say, before election night actually ended, we were looking at about 112,000 votes. Pascal still had a lot more than me, of course, but then suddenly those numbers disappeared, and we're no longer at 80. We're no longer at 89%. Now we're back to 81%. Those votes shifted. The following day we go back to 81%, and now we end off. No, it ends off. The following day it jumps to 97%. But now I've got 98,362, and he has 203,000 something. Very interesting. Regardless, even with the little randomness that they were playing with their game, I still shifted 30,000 votes that the Republican Party could have never, ever, ever done. Why? Because I came into inner cities like Patterson. I came into the city that I've lived in my entire life. The average person here is conservative. They just don't know it.
And this is New Jersey we're talking about, right?
Yeah, we're talking New Jersey here. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the average people you talk to are conservative, especially black people. You said you're Mexican, right? Oh, so very. I'm pretty sure you have very deep religious roots.
Yep.
Like, come on, a lot of these people who are typically very religious, very family oriented, who are very God fearing and have these kind of beliefs, they tend to be conservative. Yeah. One group is really like that in the inner city. The African American community is very God fearing. They're very family oriented. Yet they're subscribing to a bunch of policies that don't work for them. Yeah. I mean, another one of the reasons why I'm relearning Spanish, and I used to speak it fluently, I just don't use it and forgot most of it. But one of the reasons why I'm relearning it again is because I was actually not shocked, but it reaffirmed what I thought going in, because the doctor was telling me, a lot of Spanish people are conservative. I was like, I don't see that, man. I see a lot of them with the Democrats. So I was a little bit iffy, and the doctor, he told me, he was like, Billy, I'm telling you, bro. Like, I'm telling you because I ran against Pascal. I know the guy. I promise you, bro. There are more Hispanic Republicans in Patterson. You'd be very surprised. And it's funny. So I'm going through, the list of registered voters in Patterson, and what do you know? About 80% of the conservatives, Perez, Villanueva, like they're all Hispanic. And I'm like, wow, well, he's not lying. And it's true. And the truth is, most of the people that are on these lists, they don't go out and vote. And I don't blame them. They don't go out and vote because, like, why am I going to go out and vote for what? They don't listen to me anyway. They told me that nobody could ever win this race. This race is going to be a lock. You're going to lose no matter what you do. There's nothing you can do to actually change it or move the goalposts forward, right? Okay. So they tell me that it's locked as a Democrat, and that's not true. Because when I started to look up the numbers, right, during the election, there was 202,000 and something registered Democrats. On the low end, Bill Pascrell gets about 145, 155 or something like that. On the high end, 165,000. But he's never gone past that point, right? Except for 2020, but okay. You know what I mean? I'm talking in the past 12 years, and even if you wanted to go further from before we were in the 9th district, we were in the 8th district. If you went all the way from 1997 up until now, he's never gone past 165,000. But this just so happened to be the year that he goes past that. Let me let you in on a little funny secret. There's a guy named John Curry. John Curry is the chairman for the Passaic County Democrats. Right? Passaic County is the county I live in. That's the county that Patterson is in. Right? Patterson's also the largest city in the district that controls about, I would say, 55% of the voting block. Right? So if you don't campaign in Patterson, you lose by default. There's no winning. It is what it is. And it's done like that by design. So with that being said, with most of these votes coming from Patterson, it's about 55% of the votes in the 9th district. You don't win Patterson, essentially you're going to lose, right? Okay. So when we're looking at when I'm looking at the numbers of this race, and I saw how Dr. Castillo did, I was like, okay, everything that he's saying is true. So John Curry is the chairman for the Passaic County Democrats.
Okay.
Right? Now, it's even funnier. Can you take a wild guess who the New Jersey State Democratic chairman is?
Same guy.
John Curry. Yep.
There we go.
Can you guess who was the chairman for the 2020 Board of Elections?
I'm going to take a wild guess and say same guy.
John Curry. No conflict of interest, apparently, though. Nobody says anything about that. It was totally legitimate based on the way that they pulled this off. So the thing that I'm saying is, like, while the GOP would tell me that you can't win this, the Passaic County chairman, the Republican chairman, Peter Murphy, in my opinion, hands down, the biggest political scumbag I've ever crossed in my entire life. Good guy. Yeah. Cool guy to smoke a cigar, have a beer with politically. Hands down a demon. Big time demon. Not someone you want to get in bed with. He is the godfather of Bill Pascrell's son's child. Something to that effect. He's good friends with this person. Pascrell comes to his bar all the time. They hang out all the time. He told me to my face that, listen, we don't support Pascrell. We're just not going to support you. You got to understand that Pascrell's a friend of mine. Interesting. You also run the campaigns for the Democrat freeholder of Passaic County. You two are buddy-buddy. You're friends. And it's not a secret. That picture I posted on my Instagram of those guys standing up there, the guy on the far left, Terry Duffy, Passaic County freeholder, Democrat guy. Nice guy. Go to his bar all the time. You know what I'm saying? Peter Murphy, far right. Nice guy. Politically, though, you're not the guy. Because the moves that you guys are making for you and your friends and your pockets harms me and everybody in my city and everybody in the district. At our detriment, they do this kind of stuff. So I can't sit for that kind of stuff. You keep propping up this guy. You're allowing these guys to do what they do. I mean, and to make matters worse, I'm like, listen, how do we expect to win if, before I got into this race, how do we expect to win if we're going to put a guy like Tim Walsh, the guy I ran up against, right, to run in the 9th district? He was their front runner. He was their choice. You didn't go into Patterson. You didn't go into Total. You didn't go in anywhere in the district. You chose a guy who doesn't even live in Passaic, Hudson, or Bergen County. He does, though. You don't live in Passaic or Hudson County. He lives in Bergen County, but he doesn't live in the district. He lives all the way in no man's land in Ramsey. What does he know about what's going on in Patterson and Clifton and Passaic and Fort Lee and Hackensack and all these places? He doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't know and you don't care.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when you're there. It's kind of, speaking about something like that, what do you feel about like police officers that live outside of their community? Do you think that's also something that police officers should live in their community, or what do
You know
you
what's
think
funny
about
about you
that?
saying that? It's like, so I'm going to play devil's advocate on both sides
Yeah,
because my initial
that's
point,
what I do too. Yeah, I
yeah,
always kind of contemplate both sides.
right, because like one of my biggest supporters in this race has been the police, which really
Okay.
surprised me because like I wanted to do police reform, not in the way that
Yeah.
these maniacs are talking about it. I'm talking
Yeah.
about accountability and incentivizing good behavior from police
Mm,
officers. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
you see someone being a scumbag, you should be rewarded for. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
yeah.
But and a lot of these officers agree with me. So in this situation with should police officers work inside of district or inside of their city, initially I say yes,
Mm,
right? Because yeah, this is your officer. This officer should be able to protect their community and do this and do stuff like that, right? Okay, now place like Patterson, for example, right? Inner city place, wild stuff. People get shot like every day, every other, like legit, no joke, like every day,
yeah.
every other day, someone's getting killed here,
Yeah.
or hurt. Now you're an officer and you live in this city and you just busted a drug dealer, or your friends
Yeah.
busted some drug dealers. You know what I mean? Some of your officers busted some bad guys and put them away. And now the bad guys know not just where you live, but
Yeah.
where your children live and where your children go to school.
Yeah.
So I understand the policing your community thing, and I understand living within your community, and I would encourage it. Because
Mm,
first off, for you to be a police officer to live in the community you're policing, for one, it takes a tremendous amount of intestinal fortitude to do something like that,
yeah.
and understand the threat you're up against and still do it.
Mm,
The only reason why I support officers from out of district being in district is for that reason alone. But now here's the flip side though, because like I said, let's play
mm,
devil's advocate. The flip
yeah.
side is because they're not from this district, they police with a different kind of bias.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, in order to answer that question, you got to see both sides. Like, what's worth the risk? An officer losing their life, and now you're one officer down, or an officer who may who may operate with a bias and doesn't live in the area, doesn't have to risk their family. See, the good thing
Mm,
about an officer not being in the community is there's for one, there's no risk to their family. None of that stuff kind of happens. Two, they can have an unbiased view on how to police.
yes.
Problem is,
Yes.
sometimes that unbiased view can go too far.
Yeah.
You understand? Hence why police reform is needed. You should be incentivized to do the right thing. If we have a training record of everything you went through and you went to go do it the other way, the union can't protect you. That's the
Yeah.
general bill in a very short answer here.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that is if you live in the community, you can be biased also in the wrong way. Like, oh, I live here, I know this guy, or he goes to school, his kids go to school with my kids. I should probably ease up a little bit. So,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
I think that's a great idea in safe neighborhoods. But when you're in neighborhoods where there's a lot of violence, I don't think it works as well.
Yeah.
I've personally seen like in nightclubs where I'm at a nightclub with friends, or whatever, and we'll see a police officer walk in and somebody, not one of my personal friends, but somebody that's kind of in the group, walk up to a police officer and start saying stuff to them like, hey, you know who I am. If you ever come near me, blah, 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 all this stuff. And the police officer's like, hey, I'm just here to have a good time, trying to have drinks. I was like, man,
Yeah.
that guy's got some guts to come to this club and live where he works. So when I think about that, I wouldn't want to have that.
Yeah. It's one of the few things that and it's funny because that's one of the cool things about, and I'm very happy. I'm actually very happy that the police officers were willing to sit down and at least speak with me and
Yeah.
hear my side. They didn't just rip me apart. In fact, they would reach out to me like, "Hey, we love the idea," which I thought was
Mm,
great. I was expecting them to be like, "No, Bill, bad idea."
yeah.
But they enjoyed it because the truth is, the police officers want accountability just like we want accountability.
Yeah.
There's scumbags in the force. They know there's scumbags in the force. It's just hard to get rid of them when they're protected. You know what I mean?
Mm,
They want to protect the officers that are doing the right thing, all right, and not just protect everybody blanket. The officers that I've spoken with, and I'd say at this point about maybe 300, I'd say
mm.
about maybe 297 of them agree.
Yeah. Yeah. A majority of them want to do a good job,
Yeah, of
but
course.
it's
I mean,
that small
you're not gonna
percentage.
put on that uniform and put yourself at risk to be a scumbag. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There are officers that say, "Hey, I don't care. It's just a paycheck," and
Yeah.
these are the officers that need to go. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be on there if you're here for a paycheck. Go drive trucks if you want to do that.
Yeah. let's back up a little bit and get into, a little bit about you growing up. You were in the military as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about yourself, like life growing up and things like that.
My upbringing story is kind of corny. Well, not really corny, but it's like, we weren't rich kids,
Yeah.
Growing up, my parents, they had a house. You were one of the few people that I knew that had a house, but, no big deal because we lived right around the corner from the Fifth Ave projects. We're all in the same boat here. You know what I mean?
Same,
House or no
yeah.
house, still broke, so growing up, it wasn't a tough upbringing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also growing up back then, and the Patterson back then was very different because there was numerous projects back then. The Fifth Ave projects I grew up around doesn't exist anymore. Now they're building like senior facilities right now. But there was the Fifth Ave projects, there was the CCP projects, not Communist Chinese Party, but Christopher Columbus.
I was gonna say.
No, Christopher Columbus projects,
Okay.
Alabama projects, and then there was the towers. Right now, just the towers exist, but
Yeah.
3 of them are gone right now. And even with all the projects and all the crime and stuff, there was a lot of drug dealing. There was a lot of car theft and stuff like that, but people weren't getting shot and killed like today. Today doesn't make any sense how many people. I've never seen so many people getting shot and killed like throughout my life. So it was I was a fairly good kid, mischievous kid I would say, but every kid was mischievous. Play little pranks, ha-has, whatever. Nothing too crazy. My father passed away when I was 16 years old. Around that time, I kind of was trying to figure out the direction and what I needed, like how do I be a man, how do I keep the family going, how do I help, and there were so many other things going on that by the time I was able to go into college when I was about 19, I was 18 because I turned 19 in boot camp, so I was 18 years old. And, I'm in college. I'm trying to do this. My mom's struggling with work. I'm working a part-time job at Hollister. And, we were constantly on the verge of losing the house, constantly. And,
Jeez.
God bless my mother, man, because she was able to hold it down for like another 16 years before we were all grown adults. So God bless her for doing that. But even with that, there was not much I could really do. So I was like, I love this country. This country really gave a lot to my family. I mean, like, hell, bro, I could be in Africa eating rocks for all I know, dude. Like, heck, I might not even exist if we stayed in Africa. Like, I could have probably been, not existing, and to even have the opportunity to be in the United States and do what we're doing right now, I said, well, what better way to give back? And initially I wanted to join the Marine Corps. For whatever reason, they didn't want to take me. They're like, your ASVAB score is pretty good. Why do you want to be in infantry? Went back and forth. And eventually they pushed me over to the Air Force, which I didn't want to join at first, but it grew on me, and I was like, nah, Air Force is cooler. And I enjoyed it. So, shout out to those Marines that kind of guided me on a different path. Did that. Worked. I did 2 Alpha 6X, which is aerospace ground equipment mechanic maintenance. What I did was I worked on the ground support equipment, stuff that was used to service and maintain the planes before they went into sorties or combat or anything like that. That's what I worked on. I wasn't a plane mechanic. A lot of people think I'm a plane mechanic. Now I worked on the machine that connected to the planes, the stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of them. I wish. That would be cool, but no.
You got to clear that up.
So I did that for a little bit. Around 2010 is when the Arab Spring happened. All that wild madness was going on. And Barack Obama decided to go and bomb Libya. At this time, Congress is on recess. Nobody's really in Congress to really decide on whether this was a good idea or not. There was no declaration of war signed. So he used NATO to use our forces to go and bomb Libya, right? Which had nothing to do with us. And when I started to do my research and I found out that these guys were bombing the roads, bombing the farms, bombing hospitals, and I'm like, this is a pure violation of the Geneva Conventions. Like, why on earth would anybody back this kind of stuff? And I just was like, you know what? I'm done. I just stopped following orders and said, listen, I'm done. It's like, I signed up to defend their country. I did not sign up to go and bomb Libya while Congress is on. This has nothing to do with us. This has nothing. And the funniest thing is, there's some people that'll come and tell me, like, you're not a real veteran. You quit. I quit? Listen, my oath was to defend the United States Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That is my job. My job is not to be a hitman for the government. Not even our government, but to be a hitman for NATO. That's not my job. That's not what I signed up for. So when people say that you quit, It's like the people that blindly vote for Biden because, oh, he's president, therefore vote for Biden, or I like Biden because Democrat. No, no, no. You got to be able to think for yourself. You know what I mean? And understand what's right. Because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the only person whose judgment is going to matter is God at the end of the day. And I could, listen, I could with good faith say, listen, it was worth it to take that Article 15 and walk away from this corruption I wanted nothing to deal with. Because I know when I look God in the face and be, yo, bro, you didn't take part in that. You know, you had the opportunity to stick around, but you took the punishment, you got in trouble, you walked out, and you let it go. You did the right thing. And there's no one that can ever make me feel shame for that. You know, that can ever make me feel that. And I'm proud of what I've done. Because looking back at seeing how our country's gone and what's happening in Africa and how people are being sold off into slavery since the death of Gaddafi, and it's still going on to this day, I can say with full faith, God's going to give me a high five.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if somebody's in the NBA for 5 years and then quits or retires or whatever, they're not going to say, "Oh, you weren't an NBA player. You're not an ex-NBA player.
No.
You were in. You did it." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, these past I've been in Japan now for 10 years. So it's kind of hard for me to keep up with what's really going on in the States. I just kind of see so biased recently. Like if I look at the news here in Japan, it seems like all of America is so divided. And then I talk to my friends there, and a lot of them are just like, hey, if you stop watching the news and just talk to people, you'll realize there's still a lot of unity here. But the media just keeps trying to divide people, and it seems to be working. Social media too.
Yeah, and you know that's the scariest thing, because when I start to see how people outside of the United States perceive what's going on in America, a lot of that's attributed to what the media puts out. And what the media says and how they carry us. They make us seem like we're a bunch of barbarians here in the United States, and nothing can be further from the truth. You know, the media is, however, you know, putting people in a position where it's like everybody's got a gun aimed at each other, and you know, and for the most part, it's all misunderstanding, because there's a lot of people that I've met who are totally, completely different sides of the spectrum, who just didn't even want to hear each other's side. And you have a normal conversation, if they don't even know what your political game is, and you have a dialogue, you'd be surprised how much we actually meet in the middle. We meet in the middle quite well, you know, and there's a lot of things we agree on. We're both getting screwed on both sides. They know we're getting screwed on both sides. So what are we going to do about it? You know, truth be told, and I firmly believe, like, the reason why our parties have gone so rogue and they've gone these really completely different directions is because there's no people like us in government. It's all a bunch of suit and tie, Ivy League, you know, glasses wearing, never punched in the face. These are the people that I like to call, and the people in my crew like to call the suit and tie guys, right? The suit and tie guys are, I'm so proper, I'm so politician. You know, my glasses are shined, and, you know, I got the handkerchief, and I smoke a cigar, you know, but these guys have no real world experience. They have talking experience, but they've never walked the walk. We need people that walk the walk to actually be in government. Our Constitution wasn't designed for, you know, suit and tie guys. The Constitution was made for a farmer, dude. For a regular guy. You don't need to know too much about how our government works. You have the right to say and do what you want. You have the right to overthrow your government when they start going crazy, hence the reason why you have the Second Amendment. And you have the right to defend yourself, right? You have the right to protect it. Very basic. And we need people that are willing to represent the people in their community. You think there was a suit and tie guy in every single one of these rural parts of the country, or these little areas, these little colonies? No. There were probably like very educated people, sure, but were they always the ones? No. The country was founded by a bunch of ragtag random dudes who just said, you know what, let's pick up some muskets and shoot these dudes. Like, screw them. Regular people. And somehow, and then there's people that say, Billy, you're not a politician, you're not professional, you're edgy, you're too ghetto for politics. You know, Democrats saying this nonsense. And I'm like, ghetto for politics? The Constitution was designed for ghetto guys in politics. It was. If that's what they're calling me, ghetto guys. Like, it's designed for regular people. That's why it's not a complicated document. You know, you look at a lawsuit and you read it, it's like written in Shakespeare. The Constitution, it's clear as day why it was written the way it was. You know, and all we need to do is elect people that are willing, not even willing, that are going to. It's not even up for debate. It should be completely mandatory. If you're not upholding the Constitution, you should be gone. You should not be in the office. If you can't swear an oath to defend the Constitution, if you can't actively defend the Constitution, if you ever even advocate for any kind, me personally, I'm a little bit of an extremist with the Constitution, but it's like, if you swear an oath on the Constitution, whether it be to join the military or to go inside of government, whether it be Congress, City Hall, or even council or something small like city clerk. If you swear an oath on the Constitution to do that and you violate the Constitution even in the slightest, you should do a mandatory prison sentence of 5 years. That's my opinion. Because if you swear an oath, you are swearing an oath to not only defend the Constitution, but to defend the people that you have been chosen to represent. And if you bend in any way to violate that, you deserve, without question, 5 years in prison.
Yeah. Well, I think something like that, before that goes into effect, they need to decide, okay, this means this and this means what, because it would be easy for the opposing party to kind of misconstrue whatever is written on there and take it into their own hands.
You see, but the thing is, the Constitution is very simple, right? Freedom of speech, for example, right?
Yeah.
Any one of these politicians that advocate for the shutdown of Parler or censoring the president, you should not only be impeached, you should face prison time. 100%. Because it's like, listen, if somebody censored Joe Biden and a conservative supported that, you should go to prison. You can't call yourself a patriot or call yourself an American and advocate for someone else's rights to be taken just because you don't agree with them. I don't agree with a lot of people's rights. Yeah. But it's still your right to spread nonsense. It's still your right. Whether we like it or not, it's your right. And if I take away that person's right, who's to say that they can't take away mine? And if it's going to be one-sided where only this one side gets to have rights and the other sides don't, anybody who backs that, you need to go to prison, 100%. Yeah. And it's not complicated. It's not a difficult job. All right? Uphold the Constitution. Do what the people ask you to do. That's why they voted for you. If you can't do it, get out.
Yeah, find something else. You know, I always hear people saying like, oh, the world is laughing at us. Democrats would always say that about Trump. Oh, the world is laughing at us. But what they don't show is here in Japan, in the last like 3 or 4 weeks, I have seen 3 different marches in the streets of Japanese people. Most of them are about 50 and over. They have American flags, and they're chanting, "Stop the steal." Trump wins, Japan wins. It's been in Tokyo. I believe they had one in Osaka and one other place. Thousands of people, thousands of Japanese. Did they? Yeah. Here in Japan, they're walking down the streets with their flags and everything because they understand that, you know, Trump was kind of backing Japan against, you know, China and other countries, kind of helping keep the peace and stuff. But it's funny to me to hear people say the world is laughing at us, but they've never been anywhere outside of the U.S.
Exactly. Yeah. And they've got no clue. They've got no clue what's going on, which is unfortunate. And that goes for both sides, you know, because I see Republicans saying, like, the world's laughing at us.
Yeah.
No, they're not. If they're laughing at anybody, they're laughing at you and what you're doing, you know? But anybody can spin a narrative, man. That's why I got a giant, beautiful 55-inch Roku TV in here. I turn this thing on probably once every 7 months.
Yeah.
You know? And that's to, like, play video games or watch a YouTube video or something. You know, like, I never turn, and there's nothing on television anymore. You know, it's all stuff to control the minds of the people. You know, not a lot of the stuff that's on there isn't legitimate. It's all vulgar music, terrible television with terrible language that they're feeding to your children, and, you know, and lies from the media. So you can't even get the truth from there. So what's the point in turning this dang thing on?
Yeah, the music's another thing that really gets me. You know, I grew up on hip hop, listening to Short and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't great, but it just seems to be getting worse and worse. And we didn't have music videos like they do now. And we didn't have social media where young boys, young girls are watching this stuff and thinking that that's normal and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You know, and I couldn't stop laughing. I think it was yesterday or the day before that. I saw an article where Trump pardoned somebody from Death Row Records, I believe, and Snoop was involved and helped the guy get pardoned. But if you think back, there's a video of Snoop Dogg making a video holding a gun to Trump's head and pulling the trigger. But now they're working together to get this guy released. It's like, come on. And he was also at the Trump roast.
It's hypocrisy. You know what I'm saying? It's like everybody loved him until he ran against your agenda.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the thing that pisses me off is there's so many people that are willing to just sit down and say, hey, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to roll with whatever the line wants to talk about, with whatever the party wants to say, whatever the cool kids, whatever the clique wants to say. I'd rather do it. And so people don't lose clout, so they don't lose any kind of whatever they want to call it. They're willing to roll that way. You know, even if it means selling their soul. And by selling their soul, I'm talking about selling their dignity. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Their own self-respect, their own thoughts, their own beliefs for the sake of being accepted and maintaining that cash flow.
Mm.
Like LeBron. He'll sell out the whole entire
Yeah.
United States for a multi-billion-dollar deal from China. He doesn't care.
Yeah. When he was asked about China, he's like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course you don't. You don't care about the Christians that are being persecuted over there or the Uyghur Muslims that are being locked in the camps. You don't care
Yeah.
about any of that kind of stuff. But America's so oppressive, even though you as a
Yeah.
black man are making more money than 17 of me will ever see.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
it's interesting. It didn't disclose how much he paid, if I remember correctly, he paid millions of dollars to help convicted felons in Florida get the right back to vote
Yeah.
for this last election. I mean, Trump still won Florida, so I guess it didn't work in Florida. But he doesn't even live in Florida. He's got a couple mansions in Beverly Hills.
Well, because it's
So
got nothing to do with Florida. It's got everything to do
yeah,
with the agenda. It's like, hey,
yeah,
man, we're trying to. The way I look at it, I'm like, and that's the thing that's kind of upsetting is people was like, why would you advocate for something like that? Right? Oh, felons deserve a right to vote. Really? Why don't you help the people? For example, if you remember a while back, they were saying that the real ID was racist, right? That
yes,
most black people can't go out and get IDs. I remember I was having a
yeah,
conversation with one of my friends from Mumbai. And we're sitting down and
yeah,
he's talking. He's like, it's so funny how in America, like they say that getting the real ID is so racist. He's like, yo, bro, in India, he was like, everybody, and I don't know how true this is. It's just based off of what he told me.
mm,
He says in India, everybody has like two types of IDs. There's like one for like generic personal ID, driver's license kind of thing, and then there's a voter ID that
mm,
every citizen in the country, in the entire country, has one of these. Even the people in the villages have these. You cannot vote without this ID.
yeah,
And I'm like, India's got that, really?
yeah,
You know what? It's funny that we're having this conversation because this was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago when he told me this. I want to look and double check if that's true. And even if
yeah,
it's not, because I know there's some places in Africa where it's like that for sure. I know
mm,
that for a
mm.
fact. But I'm like, India, really? Huh? That's billions of people. That's a
I
serious
was gonna
undertaking. And
say they only
you
have a
want to
couple
talk
few.
about you want to talk about poverty? You want to talk about, oh, these people are too poor to get
Uh,
to the DMV, but the guy in the village somewhere in India who's just, chilling out, he's got one?
yeah, yeah.
It's an irrational excuse.
Yeah, I remember watching a reporter going into minority neighborhoods and asking people like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Where they're saying that
I've
minorities
seen
don't
that.
know where to get it, and you don't have internet, and they're like, "We all have smartphones,
Yeah.
like, we all have driver's license."
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. They asked a bunch of like suburban liberals that question first,
Yeah,
but oh yeah, it's
yeah.
hard for them, in a very condescending. And the thing that was messed up is
Uh,
they were being so sincere. They really,
yes,
really, really thought that
yes,
yeah, black people are struggling so
yeah,
bad they can't get IDs. It's so messed up. It's so
yeah,
racist. They want to do this to them, and they asked the black people, and they're like, "What? Like, do you know where the DMV is?" I'm like, "Bro, if you go down that place, make a right, make a left, the DMV is right. What are you talking? Huh?" They said,
yeah,
"Wow." It's shocking because you're like, well, that really shows you what these people really think about you, you know.
yeah,
But then when it comes time to vote, we need your vote. We care about you. Here's a
yes.
turkey for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think going back to talking about like Latinos being more conservative and everything, which I do agree with. Most of them are God-fearing people, and so I'm always really surprised when they're supporting Democrats who
Yeah,
support abortion. They want to have like on-demand abortion,
yeah,
and I think a lot of it just comes back to like immigration. You know, my family came to the U.S. We came across the border. My parents brought five of the children that were between, I think, 10 and 2. And then I came across, through the border. And, but back then it was a different time too. People were coming to work.
right.
People were coming. There was some people causing trouble, but not like now. Now it's completely different. And I don't think there should be open borders or anything like that. But America is a land of immigrants, so there's got to be something for not only people from Mexico, but people from other countries that want to come in and help make America better. There has
I
to be
agree.
some type of program for that. But open borders, that's not the way to go.
You see, it's like here's the problem. Is like the truth is, and it's like a part of me feels like that this is by design. I'm like a Republican will never win another race in New Jersey ever again. Not even New
Yeah,
Jersey, but like the country, I should say,
California.
for the
Yeah.
presidency. The presidency, maybe certain states they'll win, but the
Mm,
presidency, it's practically never going to happen ever again,
yeah.
because there's 11 million illegal immigrants. Joe Biden wants to make every single one of them a citizen overnight.
Mhm.
There's about 100,000 illegals at the southern border. If you make it here in the next 100 days of his first presidency, you'll become a citizen overnight. Guess who those
Mhm.
people are going to vote for?
Yeah.
They'll vote Democrat.
Well, I think in the beginning they will, but if you look at the numbers, a lot of Latinos are starting to come more to the right. And hopefully, I mean, yeah, that is crazy to just automatically make everybody legal without checking backgrounds.
Yeah,
If a lot of them
forget
are
about
already
the
here,
people who were waiting in line for such a long time. Like to
yeah.
me, I feel like I take it very personal, those kinds
Mm,
of things, man. And me, I was blessed to be born in America. Some people are like, oh, you can't say that because you're privileged. You've never been in that situation. I was like, I haven't, but my mother has.
mm,
All right, my mother was in wild poverty in Africa. All right,
mm.
about 13 of our relatives living in a tiny kitchen, bunk beds. Well, it was a kitchen. They moved out the stove and all that stuff and turned it into a room where they just had to live in, right? For years. 18 years old, my mom goes to the United Kingdom, busts her face, saves up some money, comes to the United States with my father, right? They get married, we buy a home, all through the process legally, right?
Mm.
My mom brought all 14, almost 17, actually, I should say almost 17, if we want to count the other people, whatever, about
Yeah,
17 people to the United States, all of them legally, all of them
yeah.
swearing an oath, all of them going through the process. So I'm like, when someone's like, oh, I'm in poverty, therefore I should just walk across the line, it sounds cruel, but I honestly
Mm,
don't care. Because it's like, listen, the truth is, if your country is messed up and you've got criminals in your country, got bad things in your country, especially when you're young, if you're old
mm,
and whatever, first off, you shouldn't be making that kind of trip. That's one thing. But if you're
mm.
young, it pisses me off to see young people that are my age or if not a little bit younger than me, and they're like, I'm going to abandon my country to come to America. At a time while your country's in turmoil, your country needs you the most to fight
Mm.
for your country. Your country needs strong men. Your country needs leaders. Your country needs fighters to take your country back. If the solution to your problem is just go to America, and that's everybody's solution, what about your country? What about the people that are back there? That your country isn't growing, people aren't reproducing, people, of course they are. The
Mm.
problems aren't going to change. And if you come here and you live here, you think that problem's not going to follow you? We got to resolve it right where it's at. And it's like, see, look, me, I'm cut from a different cloth. With a lot of people, it's like me. I'm willing to put it all on the line for freedom. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like if I have to subject myself to somebody else, if somebody wants to be a mob boss or a gangster, and I've had some very bad dudes come at me throughout my life, right?
Mm.
If somebody's gonna come at me and try and violate me or try and violate my family or try and harm me, you better kill me where I stand because I'm not backing down. If you
Mm.
hurt my friends, you hurt my family, you try and affect us, you try and harm my country, I'm not backing down. The problem is there's so many people that they cower, they get afraid, they buckle under pressure. It's always easy to look for the simpler solution. You know what I mean? When the truth be told, like what really demonstrates the quality of men is the ability to still be able to maneuver even in the time of conflict. You know what I'm saying? Imagine where all of our country, imagine where a lot of these countries that are in really bad shape would be if the people actually just said, screw this. If they're already oppressing you, if they're already holding you down, what do you have to lose? Death? That's where God comes in. You have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
You have nothing to fear.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. And, talking about like the legal process, your parents were in a bad situation. They decided to come to America to make their life better as well, right?
The
So
hard way.
so they came here for a better life. But when you're coming from, I can only speak for Mexico because that's my where I came from. But there is no really legal process to come in. That's why a lot of them are coming illegally. Like to come into the U.S., I believe the process is almost non-existent. I could be wrong on that. It could be different now, but so I think that's part of the issue with that. And a
What
lot
would
of
make
people
it
that,
impossible for someone from Mexico to come in, but it's possible for someone from Ghana, thousands of miles away in the 80s to do it?
well, what I'm referring to is like the process of paperwork and applying and things like that.
Well, yeah, I
I
mean,
can't
everybody's
remember
got to go through
exactly.
paperwork, though.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, whether I'm pretty sure Mexico has access to that paperwork.
Hmm. What do you know what the application process was like? What were the reasons that they had to show that they wanted to come to America at that time?
What they had is what my when my family came in,
Yeah.
they had to
Like
they
you got to
had
say why you want to.
they basically had to demonstrate that if they come to the United States, they wouldn't be a financial burden, right?
Okay.
And the way that that was passed on was, well, I'm being sponsored. In this case, my parents, who have a home, who are going to help with a job, and they've got a car, they've got all this stuff, and they did. My father bought a car for every single one of them that came. It wasn't easy, and the thing that sucks is because, like, had my parents not spent all this money on bringing my relatives to this country, I would have never went to the military. All of us could have gone to college twice with the amount of money they put into this.
So your parents had a sponsor to come in as well?
Huh?
Your parents had a sponsor that helped them get into the U.S.?
No. So what happened was before my mother married my father, she was married to another man in England. Right.
Oh, okay.
And that man was an American. He was from Ghana as well, too, but he was already an American. And they were married for about, I think, 3 years or something, and he just kept cheating on her, scumbag, and they eventually separated. But my mom was a citizen through marriage.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when she met my father, then they came in. My father, before they got married, my father actually had to go back to Ghana for some years, right? With my older brother. Because my older brother, Johnny, when my parents conceived of my brother, they weren't married yet. They were just kind of dating at this point. So my mother was like, take my brother. She brought my brother Johnny to Ghana, and my father raised him for a little bit while my mother was working on his paperwork in America to sponsor him over on a fiance visa, marry him, and then the rest of the family.
Yeah, that process, we have that same process as well, where you can sponsor people. But I'm talking about like the initial, like for your mother to get here would have been very difficult if she hadn't been previously married, right?
Yes and no. Because what my mom also did, though, because her initial plan, because like to become a citizen in America, I don't know if it's changed, but at that time you either had to be a citizen. Work visas, I believe, there weren't as many work visas back then as there were today. So at that time, it was more so you either got married into becoming an American, you were born in America, or you had enough of a financial. You had enough financial support where you wouldn't be a burden on society.
Yeah.
From the time my mother was 18 until she was about, I think she was like 28 or something by the time she married my father, she saved practically every single dime that she had. So when she came to America, she was able to put a huge down payment on a home, and she was already established. So even if she didn't get married, she already knew what she was going to do. She went to England, and the only reason why she went to England is because England colonized Ghana.
Yeah. Really?
Yes. So England colonized Ghana. So to become, and it wasn't. She didn't even become a citizen of England. She was on a work visa there. So you could get work visas very easily. The same way Jamaicans can go right to England. It's no problem because they were colonized. Same thing. So she went there. She worked for a bit, stacked up some money, and whether she got married to her first husband or not, she already had it in her mind to save money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, back to what I was saying, is I think that's one reason a lot of Latinos tend to vote Democrat. And like I said, I don't think there should be open borders. I think if people need to come in to work, because, I grew up in a farming community, like picking apples and all that kind of stuff. The only kind of people I ever saw out there working were people that looked like me. I never, so when we would hear like unemployment numbers, like, what are they talking about? There's work everywhere. You just show up, tell people you want to work. They'll give you a ladder. They'll give you a bag. Get to work. We never understood unemployment numbers. Right. And when they would talk about, like, we're stealing jobs, we're like, come on out here. We'll work right next to us. Nobody. There was always people that looked just like us. So that's one thing that I believe Latinos tend to vote. But their ideas of family and religion are usually on the right. And I hope a lot of them start to realize that the left is just starting to take all that away from everybody. If you believe in God, you're like the enemy now. It's crazy.
What I think is going to end up happening, and it's funny what you said, because when you said it, you got me to really start thinking about it. It's like earlier on when I was like, they're going to have 11 million immigrants. Guess who they're going to vote for? They're going to vote for Democrat. And you were like, not necessarily. It was like, or at least maybe in the beginning. And you're right. Because, sure, 11 million immigrants are probably going to vote for Joe Biden very beginning. Hey, you know what? He gave us amnesty, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if you left oppression, this is the way that I see it. It's like if you left oppression and you left a crappy situation to come to America so that it is better, I would hope that you don't think selfishly and realize, hey, if we don't do something, we're going to lose America just like we lost our last country.
We're going to go back to what we left.
Yeah, and I pray to God that they see that.
Yeah.
I pray to God that
I think that will happen.
It's just more a matter of when.
Yes, that's going to be. It's a matter of when, and it's also going to be a matter of how they are spoken to if they're addressed. When you look back at 2020, nobody was talking about Latinos. I mean, we're killed by police. There's a lot of
Yeah.
bad stuff happening to us too. I looked up the statistics yesterday. I believe we're 18% of the population, and I think it was we're 90. I think it was 90 below what police killed unarmed black men, right? But we're 18% of the population. But there was no talk about anything that's going on with Latinos
Right.
in 2020, and a lot of that has to do with us. We need to stand up and speak as well, And I'm not talking about getting out there and marching and destroying property. Not at all.
No.
Getting out and voting. A lot of our people don't vote either. That's another one of the big
That's true,
problems.
and,
We don't get out and
it's
vote.
funny that you bring that up because like one of the largest. It's funny because in my district, for example, there is 69,362 Republicans. I know them
Yeah.
to the map because they're so damn small.
Yeah.
There's 202,000 something Democrats, but there's 179,000 unaffiliated voters. So the unaffiliated voters dwarf the Republicans. If the Republicans actually did the work and reached out to every single one of those Democrats that are out there, the Republican Party could easily be on par with
Yes.
the Democrats, if not bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're not doing it because they have no incentive in doing it.
Yeah. Most of the Mexican people that I know, that I grew up with, they didn't come here for a handout. Like we used to have welfare come into our house telling my dad to take welfare because he had 6 kids. My dad's like, we didn't come here for that. We came to work, so my dad never took it. And they would just keep coming to our house trying to get him to take it. And my
That's
dad
not the
always
first time I've
refused
heard
it.
that.
Yeah, my dad would always refuse it. And he's like, no, we came here to work. We didn't come here for free stuff. So my dad always told us, whatever you get, you work for it. Don't take free stuff from anybody because you're always going to owe them something and they will come back to collect.
100%.
Yeah. Are you good on time? It's 10:40.
I got to wrap up in about maybe 4 or 5 minutes, but yeah.
Okay.
So far,
Well,
no, we actually, wow, an hour's passed
yeah.
quite fast.
Time goes by quick. Yeah. So what I'm hoping is going to happen in the future is, of course, unity from both sides, because there's such a small percentage of Democrats and such a small percentage of Republicans that just hate each other and won't listen to anything the other one says, even if it's correct. And that's affecting everybody. And like you said, I got people that are completely the other side of what I think. But when we don't talk politics, we have a great time. So if you can start off with that and then slowly start talking about, hey, this is what we have in common and this is what we don't have in common. How can we meet in the middle and how can we fix this?
Yeah.
I think that'll be a big help for the future of America.
Well, it's like right now, what America needs more than anything is I think America kind of just needs a reality check right now at this point. And the thing that's sad is I see that reality check coming quite soon. I'm assuming in the next couple of months because it's like the people that voted for Biden just to get rid of Trump are going to realize, wait a minute, why did we do this?
Yes.
And then the people that turned their backs on Trump or even hated Trump are going to question, well, why did we do this? Wow, we really put ourselves in a situation. I just pray that it's not too late by then. Right now, Joe Biden is the second he got in office, he's undoing everything the president has done. Everything.
Yep.
From
restrictions
the
on
pipeline,
abortion,
the tax cuts, increasing the minimum wage, wants to send another $2 trillion in stimulus to us, but then send even more overseas, increase the taxes. Come on.
Yep.
It's
I've seen a lot of Democrats post on social media like, "Where's my 2,000? I voted. Where's my 2,000? Where's my $2,000?"
Yeah, that's how simple-minded they are. You could sell your entire nation out for $2,000
For 2,000,
while
and
they'll give $15 million to Pakistan for gender studies.
Yeah, gender studies.
That's
the other crazy thing is they're trying to take out he and she, father, mother, all that kind of stuff. In Congress.
Yeah, because they're trying to make it into this inclusive thing. Because at the end of the day, what they're really trying to do is they're just trying to, and look, we're going to go a little religious here. What they're trying to do is they're completely trying to wipe out the face of God in humanity. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to wipe out the existence of God at all. We don't want to know what's men, what's woman, what's real, what's fake, what's anything. You could be whatever you want. You could be black today. You could be white tomorrow. You could be woman today. You could be woman tomorrow. You could be cyborg today. You could do whatever you want. How can we make humanity as ugly in the eyes of God as possible? Deny your own existence and believe you're something that you're not.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as going religious, right here, Lord's
I like
Army.
that. That
Yeah,
reminds me of the LA Gear sneakers. You remember those?
yeah,
The
yeah,
logo?
yeah.
That's pretty tight.
I'll send you one of these. This is part of my apparel company.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah,
That's
I'll send
awesome,
you
man.
one. I'll send you one. Yeah, I
Great.
think faith is the cornerstone of everything that we do. Not for everybody, but for a lot of us. And if we can come together in that, that's going to help solve a lot of our
Yeah,
problems. And and even if there's somebody that doesn't have the same faith as you, don't reject them. Don't push them away. You can still work together. You can still respect and love each other.
absolutely. And
So
right now, America, not even just America, the world needs Christ now more than ever.
yes,
Um, it's
yes,
funny. I remember being a kid, and my mom reading about this and being in Bible study or talking about the end times and all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is all hokey, blah 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 blah. Sure. And fast forward to 2020, I would say fast forward to like 2018, I should say.
yeah, yeah,
And it started to become quite apparent that it's like, no, we are in the end times. There's nothing but lies. Everybody is whatever the heck they say they are. And we got famine all across the
yeah,
damn world. People are starving.
yeah,
Plagues, COVID-19. You know what I mean? All
yeah.
this really crazy stuff is going on. And people are
Yeah,
falling further and further away.
yes, yes. And instead of people coming together or being more united with Christ when the times are getting harder, a lot of them are falling away, that's what the enemy wants.
Yeah.
But we stand strong, and I'll pray with you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me, Honor. Thank you so much, bro.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. And maybe in the next month or so, we can jump on again and have a little longer conversation. But I know you got to
Oh,
go.
I'd love to, brother. I'd love to, man.
Okay.
I'm always open. This was a great
Okay.
conversation, man. And
Appreciate it, man.
thank you so much, brother. God
All
bless.
right. All right. God bless.
Take care.